Hi, and welcome to the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. I'm your host, Anita Santiago, and welcome. I want to encourage you to please like, share, and review the podcast on all the major podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. If you'd like to email me, please send an email to convoscws@gmail.com, and you can let me know what you think about the show or topics you would like to see in the future. So, what's the topic today? The topic is, are relationships dead? And that question came to mind when somebody asked me, or somebody suggested to me, "Hey Anita, you really need to cover this situation about dating on your podcast. It's terrible out here. You really need to let people know how bad it is." And I thought to myself, yeah, I've seen some posts on social media where people are describing the difficulties that they're having meeting the type of people that they would like to meet. I see a lot of memes and a lot of jokes about how tainted the dating pool is, but you all know me. I think a little deeper sometimes. And so I wondered to myself, is the reason that that people are experiencing so many problems with finding the type of meaningful relationships that they want? Is it more to it than just the pool is tainted? So I started thinking, are relationships dead? And I'll tell you how I came up with that question, because as I was thinking historically about relationships, how relationships have supported economies, and how relationships have been such an integral part of especially American tradition and tradition in the West, I thought, I'll think about this a little bit and see where it leads me. So I want to start out with like some basic historical stuff. And I know that we typically don't think this way when we're going about our daily activities, but in the past, uh, marriages and relationships were a very important part of society. So I was thinking about the time in Europe and the United States where the economy was predominantly agricultural. So people raised livestock and they grew food. Countries traded, they traded spices and all kinds of things. And economies ran this way for a very, very long time. And when you think about it, in an agricultural economy, you need a lot of labor. Things have to be grown, harvested, livestock has to be fed, sheep taken to pasture, and these sorts of things. And so, what you saw was not only relationships, but you saw relationships for the purpose of producing more labor to support an economy. So, it was not unusual in those times to see very large families, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 children. That wasn't unusual. And thinking back to those times, people weren't getting on a train and going to a job. They had to produce the food that they ate. So that means that if your family was on a farm of some type, whether you raised livestock to trade with other people for the vegetables and stuff that you needed, or you grew vegetables and you traded that for the meat you needed, it took a lot of people to make a farm operational, if you will. So having large families really supported that. In those days, people married very young, and relationships weren't necessarily about love. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't love stories and things of that nature. We know that there were, but many times marriages were more business focused. You know, could that husband lead and take care of the money and the property and the things he was going to be responsible for, could the potential wife produce children? That was the main concern. Could she cook? Could she clean? Could she do the things that traditional gender roles at that time demanded? And so in in this, most of this, a lot of this is my opinion and not necessarily hard facts because I'm not a historian. But I mean, in those times, it really mattered that when two people came together, it could work. And so it seems like when I watch like some of the old TV shows and stuff like that, you see kind of that theme that those relationships are more about working together and producing and taking care of things than they are about quote unquote love. Okay, so fast forward to the industrial age. Now, the West is moving from primarily agricultural focus to industrial. You have production of cars, production of clothes, mass production, large scale production, shoes, and things that people need in everyday life. You see the cities starting to grow. You see populations growing. You see people moving from countrysides into the cities to take advantage of this new way of living. And so, again, you have uh, people moving into the city. We're manufacturing, and but a lot of populations in a lot of places still revolved around agriculture, um, places outside of those major cities. And so you still had this sense of, um, if we're living on a farm and we're married and we have kids, then we need kids to help us do things. And also, remember back then, there were no nursing homes, there was no Social Security. So as parents aged, someone had to take care of them, someone had to look after them and after the property. So having large families, again, was really important and kind of a foundation for how and why people got together. We pushed forward into the 60s and 70s, and now let me back up a little bit. Let me go to like the 40s and 50s, where in the United States, gender roles were very defined. So typically, men went to work in the cities and women stayed home and took care of the children. I think this is where we see the shift from very large families, five, six, and, you know, 10 kids, to two or three. Um, there were very, very clear roles and expectations. And again, when people got together, does is the man able to go to work and take care of a family he's going to have? And can the wife do those things that traditionally women were expected to do? Produce children, take care of children, cook, clean, and those types of things. Then we move forward to like the 60s, 70s, where we see women taking on careers, fewer women staying at home. And now those traditional gender roles are being broken. And to me, since that time, the complaint about relationships has been loud and it's been consistent. The women can't find men they're looking for. Men can't find women that they're looking for. There's arguments over what gender roles should and shouldn't be. And that brings us to my question. Are relationships dead? In some spaces, there's arguments that, women are so independent. Women are more educated. Women have a different quality of life than many years ago. And in some spaces and for some people, that is the quote unquote reason relationships aren't what they used to be. Women just they're too independent. They don't know how to be feminine or submissive. And this just throws the whole concept of relationships off. And then there are some spaces where women say, hey, men are no longer breadwinners. They're not making the money like they used to. They can't do the things that men are known for doing, leading and taking care of things and making sure that things got done. And those places and spaces, people in those places and spaces will argue, well, that's the real reason that relationships won't work is because men just aren't doing what they used to do. And so as I was thinking about this question, it dawned on me, like, do we even believe in relationships anymore? With TikTok and Instagram and social media, we have all these relationship experts. I see videos about women who aren't feminine enough, men who aren't masculine enough, people, women or men who don't want to embrace traditional roles, women or men who refuse to look outside of traditional roles. But that keeps bringing me back to the question, do we even really believe in relationships? Do we believe that it's a good thing for people to get together? Do we believe it's a good thing for people to grow together and have goals and work toward things together? I feel like there's this conflict in society. On the one hand, society is saying, well, you don't need relationships anymore. Like you're not agriculturally based. You don't need kids. There's not a lot of reasons to engage in relationship. You can, women and men, you can get an education or a trade. You can make your money. You can buy your home. There was a time where women couldn't own property. There were a time where women couldn't even get credit cards. I believe in the United States, women could not get a credit card on their own until the 1970s. So now men and women are equally able to provide the things that they need. The woman doesn't have to look to a man to be the provider because she can buy a home. She can make enough money to take care of the kids. And conversely, a man doesn't need a whole marriage and family to validate himself anymore. A measure of a man used to be, frankly, by the woman in the family that he had and how he took care of them. But now that's not necessarily required. So, do we believe that relationships are a good thing? Do we believe that relationships are necessary? And we're not even talking about necessarily about marriage and commitment, because you have to have a relationship before you can get to that step. So my question is, as a society, as a culture, as do we have a standard for relationships? Do we say fundamentally relationships are a good thing and we should encourage that? There's a lot of divisiveness in politics and religious philosophical views. We see people who are not as open, perhaps, to sharing experiences with other people. And what I'm really getting at is, are we really open to being with others, learning about others, growing with others? I think as a society, when you become so polarized, one group doesn't want to associate with another group, or one group thinks lower of another group, or there's a lot of cultural misunderstanding. How do you learn to appreciate people on a fundamental level? Because I think that's required in order to want to be in relationship. When I say the word relationship, I'm thinking of not just the romantic piece. The romantic piece may or may not be there, but the relationship is fundamentally two people learning together, growing together with common purpose and vision. And so, do we believe that that's a good thing in our society? And do we promote that? I think that when we look at social media, movies, and other things like that, do those themes promote relationships? And, it seems like in the media, we get one or the other. We get the super, super romantic, unrealistic presentation of a relationship, or we get no relationships at all. So I'm going to ask you a question I want you to think about while you're listening to this episode. How many healthy, nurturing, loving relationships have you seen in your lifetime between two people? Whether it was older couple, younger couple, how many strong, inspirational relationships have you seen in your lifetime? I would probably say that many, many people would say the number is low. Either they've seen none or they've seen very few. So then that leads us to the question of, how do we promote something that we very rarely see? And I'm going to take a little detour here. You know, as a society, we get presented with a lot of different types of what is the right relationship. Well, if you're two people of the same religion, then if you're in a relationship, it's good. If you come from the same cultural background and you're in a relationship, then that's good. But our society doesn't say, it is a normal, healthy thing to be in relationship with someone. All of the fighting between what women are doing and what men are doing, I feel is so unnecessary. Because at the end of the day, do you want to be in a relationship or not? And sure, there are criteria that you have to decide for yourself. What type of person you want to be with and what kind of relationship. Everyone doesn't necessarily want a super duper romantic relationship. Some people want companionship, but whatever it is that you want, you have to decide that's what you want. And do you see that as a good thing in your life? Do you see that as something that enhances your life? Or do you see this as something that you're supposed to do? Well, when I'm in my 20s and I graduate from college, I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have kids. I'm supposed to work a job. I'm supposed to retire. Who said so? I mean, that might be the path you follow, and there's nothing wrong with that path if that's what you decided for yourself. I feel like a lot of us fall into boxes that we try to fit into without ever thinking if it was the right thing for us. Which brings me back to, do our relationships dead? Do we fundamentally believe that this is something that we should prepare for, something that we should look forward to in our lives? And that is the question that has to be answered before you get to dating, before you get to gender roles and all of the other things that I see on the internet that people are discussing, before you get to the discussion of, are men masculine enough or women feminine enough, we all have to answer the fundamental question: are relationships dead, or do we believe they're a good thing? And if we believe they're a good thing, then we have to start with the human to human interaction that we have every day. How can I realistically be in a relationship with someone if I fundamentally don't treat people well? If I don't fundamentally do the things that I think I should do with other people, then it's going to be hard for me to be successful in a relationship. So let me illustrate that for you. For people who find relationships and dating challenging, and you say, I want someone that's dependable, I want someone that's honest, that's trustworthy, that I can believe in. Are you those things? Are you those things for the people that you're around? And are you those things to yourself? Because if you're not those things to people that you're around, and you're not those things to yourself, then how do you feel that you would even recognize what that is? So when I'm talking to people and I'm having discussions and they're expressing, you know, I really want someone that's just going to communicate. Okay, do you communicate? Do you communicate as openly as you demand people communicate with you? Are you as open with yourself as you want people to be with you? Well, I want a guy, uh, you know, theoretically, somebody might say, I want a guy that goes to work, that's not afraid to follow his passion, whatever that may be. Do you follow your passions? Do you have the things? Do you do the things that you are asking from other people? And the reason that matters is that if we believe that relationships are not dead, and we believe that relationships are a good thing, then shouldn't we be doing the things that we think are needed in relationships with the people around us? It just seems like we should be doing that. And nothing wrong with the other topics that are discussed, and there's nothing wrong with bringing things to the forefront, issues that we see in our culture. Nothing wrong with bringing that forward. However, fundamentally, at a basic human level, we have to understand that our need and desire for relationship is not just on a romantic level, it's on a human to human level. And so if one is having trouble with relationships, you know, can you look in the mirror and see, maybe I'm not an honest person like I think I should be. Maybe I don't communicate as well as I should. Maybe I'm not open with people like I should be. Because I promise you, if you start doing the things and exhibiting the things that you expect from others, your whole dynamic could change. I tell you it will. So I'm going to use myself as an example, and I'm going to illustrate how this can look. So I'm not a person who always smiles. It's just my face, it's just my makeup. And sometimes I would go out and about, I'm bebopping around, running errands, doing my thing, and people didn't smile at me, and I may be at the store and I go, why she look at me that way? Why she look at me that way? Why he look at me that way? Did somebody just roll their eyes at me? And that's what I literally would be thinking. So my best friend challenged me, and it was a good challenge. My best friend challenged me to just smile at people and say hello. And I thought to myself, what? Like, I ain't got time for that. Life is life, and I got things to do, and I just can't be stopping and smiling at people, and it's going to slow me down. And, it just didn't make any sense to me. But if you challenge me, I got to take it up because I have to prove you wrong. So what happened was I started when I would go to the grocery store or the gas station and I come across somebody's path, I'd smile and I'd say hello. And at first it was really awkward because I just really didn't feel like it was going to make that much of a difference, but it did. And there were some days where people told me, I was having a really bad day, but you said hello to me and I feel so much better. And I'm like, wow, who knew? But something happened in the midst of this challenge. I went from doing it as part of a challenge and wanting to prove my best friend wrong to genuinely wanting to say hello to people. And it just amazes me how people respond to a smile and a hello. And so I thought to myself, maybe the reason I thought the things that I thought, and did, and when I would be out and about and I would wonder if people were looking at me in a mean way, is because that's what I was doing. And when I did something different, because I value people, I fundamentally value people, um, and I show, hey, you're a person, I'm smiling, hello, something very simple. And to tie that back in to what I'm talking about, you wouldn't think that just smiling and saying hello to people would affect your ability to have relationships or how you operate in relationships, but it does. Because think about it. If I'm not smiling when I'm running errands and doing other things, I'm probably not smiling most other times. I'm probably edgy other times. And so that could have a big impact on family relationships, sibling relationships, or dating relationships. And you might think that's kind of a weird example, but I think it really shows how powerful behaviors and actions are. So if we're talking about the challenges in the dating scene and the challenges in finding decent relationships that we can sustain, that are good for us, I think we have to start with self first. And again, if we believe that relationships are a good thing and we believe that we need relationships in our lives, then how can you improve the relationships you have with the people around you first? Your children, your siblings, your family. Um, there's always room for improvement. And I know that sometimes we have relationships that, are broken beyond repair. Like those relationships will never be the same, and that's okay. I'm talking about investing in the relationships that matter to you. If people matter to you, they should know it. And if you operate that way with the people around you consistently on a regular basis, I fundamentally believe you'll start to attract people to you that have your same energy, have your same outlook, and want to engage with you in the same way. So if you're being open, you're being honest, you're being trustworthy, you're being fun, you're going to attract that to you. And I think sometimes we get caught up in checking the boxes and doing the things that people say we should do in order to find the relationship, that we don't stop and think about it. So, for example, for women, um, a thing that women are socialized to do is to try to be as beautiful as possible because, and I'm talking about attracting someone to you. So women are socialized. Be beautiful. Do the makeup. Wear the sexy clothes. Wear the high heels. You know, and all of that is fine and dandy. But if you don't know how to do other things, like treat people well, smile, relax, enjoy the moment, be present in the moment, then that's going to impact your ability to interact with people. It's going to impact whether or not you feel comfortable with others. It's going to impact what you'll accept and what you won't accept. And so, again, we don't want to get into these boxes where, if I'm a guy and I got a job and I got good credit and I check all the boxes, but then I go out to find a relationship and I don't know how to communicate because, I've got a lot of stuff that happened in my past and I'm not a good communicator anymore because of that. It's going to be difficult for you to interact with a person in a relationship. So you have to address that issue. You have to deal with that issue so that when you are out and about, you're at a social event, you're at a family event, you can communicate comfortably. And again, progress over perfection. Progress over perfection. Nothing that we do is going to be perfect all the time, 100%. So if you are working on yourself and trying to work on doing better in the relationships around you, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. But the fact that you're trying and you're working on yourself and you're pushing for that growth and that change that is necessary means that you're going to get results. I feel like for people who are really looking for that relationship, um, or looking for a relationship, let me put it like that, start with self. Start with self and just ask yourself, when you go down your checklist, well, I want her to have this, I want her to have that, I want her to be able to do this and be able to do that. As you're going down your list and making your list of things that you want in a person, you need to also be evaluating whether or not you do those same things consistently and at the level that you would want the person you're looking for to operate at. You know, not just do you do it, but if you want someone that's 10 toes down, are you 10 toes down? If you want someone that's solid, are you solid? Keep it 100. Real talk. I just feel like that is a piece of the conversation that we are missing, and it's a very important piece. I feel that if we just take a moment and reflect on how we feel about relationships and whether or not we feel they're important, you have to change. You have to change how you're doing things. And no matter who you are or what level you're at with your relationships, there's room to improve and grow. So if you do the things that you do the things in relationships with the people around you that you expect, and you do it consistently, there's room for growth. There's room for improvement. You can do it a little better. You can refine some things. And I really feel like once you get in that mode of being consistent, of doing things in a certain way, that's what you're going to attract to you. You won't attract the negative if you're not being negative. This is just my thought. Because if you're a positive person, you're positive, you're fun, you communicate, you're open, and those are your values, then someone who's not those things are not going to be comfortable in your space. And that's what I mean when I say you'll attract what you are. If you are open and an honest person, you're not going to necessarily attract people to you that aren't honest and open, because it'll be too uncomfortable. It'll be too much of a different dynamic. Now, I know that saying that, there's a saying out there that opposites attract, and that might be true. But if you are consistent in all of your relationships, see, this is the important part. So if you're positive, fun, open, and honest, but only in romantic relationships, and you're not that way in your family relationships, in your sibling relationships, in your work relationships, well, then you've got a huge blind spot because you're only doing it in one area. What I'm suggesting to you is whatever you do, however you move, you have to move that way all the way around in every relationship that you have. So if you're looking for communication in your next relationship, then your communication has to be what you need it to be with everyone in your life that you have a relationship with. And that's how you create an environment that if the people around you or the people that are coming in the proximity of you have something that's different, they don't communicate or they're deceptive, they're not going to feel comfortable being in your space, and you won't attract that. Again, I'm not saying that this is the end all and be all of the relationship discussion, but in light of all the information that's out there and what people are speaking on, I think if we take one step back and say, before we get to all these other discussions, do we even believe in relationships? Do we believe in it? Is that important to us? And then once we decide it's important to us, we can move accordingly. I hope this topic has been interesting to you. I hope it's presented um, the questions around relationship. I hope I framed it in a very different way. Um, your call to action in your life, if you're struggling with relationships, ask yourself, do you believe in relationships? And if you do, okay, what do you expect from relationships? And then go be that. Go be that to everyone around you and watch things change. Watch things break loose, and you'll start to attract friends, acquaintances, coworkers towards you that are going to fit with who you are. So I want to thank you all for stopping by the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. Don't forget to like, review, share the podcast on all major platforms, YouTube included. Um, if you would like to reach out to me, you can email me at convoscws@gmail.com. Once again, thanks to all the fans, supporters, and listeners for coming back and checking out episodes. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks so much and happy listening.